What's going on, everyone? So, for the first time in the last two Scream movies, we will be without the Carpenter sisters. Sam and Tara are not going to be in this film. I'm sure many of you are already aware as to why. So, this film is supposed to be very Sidney as well as Gale centric and focused. There's kind of rumors going on that like the family dynamic and the family element might not really be so much of the focus as originally thought, but her family and Mark Kincaid are expected to be in the film. It's just going to be in more limited roles. So probably going to get a Scream film that is more, Gale and Sid as opposed to Sam and Tara focused. And I get it, right? You lost Jenna Ortega, Melissa Barrera. The safest bet, the safest route, the safest direction to go is Sidney and Gale, right? Lean on the two that basically built the franchise. Obviously, if Dewey was still around, I'd be saying Dewey as well, but he met us in Scream 5. So one of the things, though, that I've talked about in past videos is, Sam and Tara, okay, you can argue that they basically got their ending, right? You look at the end of Scream 6, right? The whole film was basically about the struggles between Sam and Tara wanting to kind of be let go and be a free bird. She's a peacock. She needs to fly. And for those that get the reference, and Sam was just very, she was overprotective, which is understandable, right? Her sister almost died. And now you got Ghostface back again, right? Of course, she's kind of over the top to try to just keep her sister protected. And then at the end, you kind of see her willing to let her go. Right. And you get the symbolism of like, you got to let me go. You got to let me go. Right. Boom. Lets her go. They're able to end the Ghostface threat. And boom. Right. They choose each other and walk off. And you see Sam kind of dealing with the struggles of the dark side, so to speak. And you see her looking at the mask. And it's kind of like, okay, is she going dark? Is she going light? Like, what's going to happen here? And ultimately, she leaves the mask and walks away with Tara. Okay, cool. Right, so you could argue that they kind of got their picture perfect ending, and all is good, right? Let them be. But I've also talked about how there needs to be some level of explanation. There needs to be some sort of mention, and my concern is that they just kind of brush over it, like they pretend like it almost never happened, and I don't think that that's the best approach, right? Because there is going to be this curiosity of like, okay, like. They gave us an explanation for Sidney. They need to give us an explanation for Sam and Tara. And according to Beyond the Mask, yes, this is going to be a Sidney-centric film, but we are going to get mention of Sam and Tara. What that mention is, we do not know at this time. Again, always take the rumors and stuff with a grain of salt, but it does make sense, right? It's a rumor that is not like far-fetched. It's a rumor that is more likely than not. Right, I do think out of all the rumors that are coming out and will continue to come out between now and the actual release of the movie, right, like, this is probably the safest, like, it's probably going to happen. Again, I'm all for a Sidney movie, given the circumstances. I am one of the people that want us to move off of Sidney Prescott, right, and look, a lot of people really want Sidney to have a happy ending, but I've said this before, like, you can't do that if she keeps having to take on Ghostface, right? At some point, you got to make a decision here. And at some point, the more Scream she's in, the more likely it is she's going to have to die at some point, right? I mean, the fact that she's still alive for a horror franchise is shocking in and of itself, that she's going to be in the 7th installment. Obviously, she wasn't in Scream 6, but, it's one of those things where most horror franchises have already killed off their original final girl by now, or they've retconned it to where she's alive and there's a different timeline or whatever, right? So it's like, got to kind of pick a lane. And to me, I'd rather just let Sidney go off and be with her family, live her life, and you have a new, injection of characters that you grow and develop and you build, which I think was the intention. Right, like if the whole Melissa Barrera thing would have happened, not going to really get into that again. I've already talked about that in the past when it originally happened. But, like when that whole thing happened, think it kind of threw a monkey wrench in everything. And it's like, okay, well, now what do we do? And it's like, well, we could do a whole new Scream with a whole new cast and everything like that, but that's risky, right? And like, what's the safest route to kind of get this to work? Okay, well, you bring Sidney back, you probably introduce a couple new characters, right? That you're hoping fans kind of latch onto and buy into, which is on the writing to actually properly grow and develop these characters. But if you do that, then maybe you can kind of start slowly moving away from Sidney again, and do a couple more films. Because like I said, they're going to do more films. Like Scream 7 isn't going to be it. Right? I mean, Spyglass and them, they paid like $500 million for the rights to Scream. Now, it wasn't just Scream, it was like a whole catalog, but Scream was the grand prize, right? Scream was the big prize, right? It's like, if I was trying to sell you, a basketball card, and the basketball card is worth, $100, but I'm like, you also got to take all my other cards too, right? It's like, I don't really want the other cards. I just want this card that I want to buy. And it's like, I'll only sell it to you for $100 if you take all of it. It's like, all right, well, maybe I can, recoup some of the other money with some of the other stuff, right? Some stuff is going to be worthless. Some stuff maybe something may be good. But now you got the IP, and they need to pump out as many films as possible. But, I don't want another, there's a lot of talks about this potentially setting up a trilogy, and and like, I'm all for that, right? Like, give me a new Scream film every year for the next 20 years. I'm all for it, right? The beauty of Scream is it's not a Michael or a Freddy or a Jason, where, when they die, that's it, right? Or you have to have some crazy explanation for them to return. No, Ghostface can be anybody at any time. It's always a different person. Like, the beauty is it's always someone different under the mask. Ghostface is just kind of the moniker in which that person uses to get their evil deeds done, right? Like, so to me, it's the, you can go forever, and that's the beauty of the franchise. But I also want good characters, good development, good story. I mean, even Scream 5 did a terrible job with Sidney Prescott, right? It was almost like they didn't know what to do with her and how to have her incorporated in the film. Like, nothing she did in that film required Sidney Prescott, right? Like, it was cool to see her on board and shooting through the doors and stuff, but like, her putting on the tracker, she even says right after that Gail is the one that could have done it, right? Like, her kind of, fighting off Ghostface and helping save the day. We know Mindy was alive. She could have done that, and it would have been a nice callback to the original Scream, where Randy was originally supposed to be the hero, right? Like, you could have done something like that. And then even Scream 6, like Kirby, like, what was the point of Kirby? Kirby made no sense, like, her story. And then on top of that, it was just like, again, she didn't do anything that required Kirby to be that character. Literally anybody could have been that. They could have introduced a brand new character, and it probably would have fit better, right? Same thing with Gale in Scream 6. I thought they did a terrible job with Gale. The one thing Gale did, which was discover the shrine room, Detective Bailey, Dermot Mulroney's character, says, like, shortly after, like, oh man, like, I was gonna reveal it to you, and she beat me to it, right? Like, so again, so you didn't even need Gale to discover the shrine room. It wasn't like it was a secret and it was hidden. Like, no, like, the killer was gonna tell you about it, right? So again, like, Sam and Tara, one, like, if you're the franchise, do you kind of leave the door open? You kind of let the dust settle, right? I mean, Sidney came back after the dust settled, right? So, do you kind of like bring Melissa and Tara back at some point, right? Or Jenna back at some point? I mean, Jenna said she didn't leave because of Melissa. She said she just had other obligations and other projects, right? So if she starts, if things kind of cool down a little bit for her, do you maybe bring her back? Even, I mean, look, Melissa Barrera, until Scream 6, people weren't a big fan of hers, right? Like, Scream 5 did her no justice. I mean, the general consensus was that she was terrible and needed to be replaced, right? And it's like, now you got this consensus of like, oh, she's great because they did her character justice in Scream 6. But like, for me, it's like, again, I don't want to see them just sweep away the characters. Like, even the Meeks twins, right? Like, they probably, if I had to guess, probably won't get any mention, or probably won't, nothing will probably kind of be an afterthought. But even them, I'd like some type of, like, what happened with Chad? Is Chad ever, like, is he able to walk? Like, like, did the dude die in the hospital later? Like, like, dude, that guy should have died several times over, right? Like, so again, it's just like you establish these characters, and okay, fine, a wrench got kind of thrown into things and threw everything out of whack. All right, fine. Okay, well, now you need to kind of, you don't want to just pretend like the past didn't happen, right? Like, at some point, like, and they kind of did that in Scream 5, like, with the aftermath with Jill and Kirby and all that. It's just like, I don't want to see them just pretend like things just didn't happen. And there's a million questions for us. And obviously, they're not going to be able to answer every single question because that would take time and it's unnecessary because you're trying to build characters and you're trying to tell the story and you're trying to do this and do that and do the other, right? Like, so I get it to an extent, but like, at least acknowledge it, at least kind of, give us some insight into it. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of like a rock in a hard place. And I get that, but, Sam and Tara are now big parts of the Scream ethos, right? And, with Sidney Prescott, her coming to help, I mean, granted, she didn't really come for them, she came for Dewey, but, still, like, there is that connection, and there is this kind of level of a bond between Sam and Sidney. And, it's like, you want to see that explored. You don't want that kind of just brushed under the table. And that's why I've even said, like, I think that they should leave the door open. I think that they should, kind of give the potential and opportunity for Melissa and Tara to potentially make a return. And give them the opportunity to actually, kind of pick up where they left off at some point. I'm not saying it has to be in this film or the next film, but like, sooner rather than later, it'd be nice to kind of see them kind of go a new direction, right? But I think regardless, you have to build, establish, and create new characters. I think regardless, you need to have some type of just kind of, just characters that you can kind of continue moving forward with, right? At some point you don't want to just have, this just like revolving door of new characters. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you think that, they should leave the door open for Sam and Tara? Do you think, no, what's done is done, too late, it's over? Do you want to see them return at some point? Do you not? Do you think that there should be some mention? Do you think like, it's all right, just doesn't matter either way? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. We enjoy these types of videos and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.